want to introduce Dr. Jean Guccini. We've contracted with Jean to do customer service training. It's an initiative that we started a couple months back in the spring. And there's 5 segments. Today we're going to do segment 1 and 2 together. And the purpose is we wanted to be the leader in customer service. We're all customers, and I'm sure you've been to everywhere from Macy's to Old Navy. And you know what it's like when you get good customer service, and you know what it's like when you don't. And it can make a difference as a consumer in where we go and where we don't go based on good customer service. It's that simple. So a lot of companies are also getting on the bandwagon, but we wanted to be the leader in the best customer service. And we define customers, and Gene will talk to you about it later, so many different things. That's one of the things that he'll talk about. But we're customers of each other. We have patients and clients and vendors and hospitals and doctors and families, so many different ways for us to be better at what we do. And it's an issue that we're taking, and the part of it is this training. And you'll see it in other ways too. We're doing a new performance appraisal, and you'll see customer service is one of the competencies that people will be evaluated on. And you'll see it in lots of other areas too, and it's something that we want to focus on so that we could be really the forerunners. And Evan says Dominican Sisters. We want to be known first for quality patient care, but a close second is, they were really easy to deal with, they were nice, they were good on the phone, everything got coordinated well. Linda brought some donuts, we'll pass those around. And Joe is our videographer today. He's videoing Jean and Jean's presentation, not you. We'll shut it off during the discussions because there's a lot of audience participation in our training. So we'll shut it off at that time. But we're doing it for our fee-for-service employees. And we now have a computer-based training system. And Jean and I can't be everywhere all hours of the night, given that we have and our fee-for-service people work during the day. So we tried to arrange some evening sessions, and we thought this would be the best way for us to have Jean's presentation shown to a lot of our other folks who can't be here this morning or can't be here during the day. So I'm going to turn it over to Jean, and he'll introduce himself. And then we're going to get going. I'm going to pass around a sign-in sheet, if everyone could please sign in. We'll take some periodic breaks.
Any truth that you only get a donut if you sign in?
Yes. Yes, that is. Okay.
Okay, while the donuts are going around and while the sign-in sheet is going around, we'll do some quick introductions. Again, I'm Jean Guccini. I wear a couple of hats. One of my hats is I teach at a university up in Connecticut. Another hat is that I do a lot of consulting work with healthcare organizations. So this is one of them. So you are.
Good morning, I'm Ernie, and I'm a social worker.
Social worker, great, Ernie, thank you.
Hi, I'm Ginny, I'm a nurse case manager.
Great, thank you.
Hey,
Okay, good. And you came just in time for both the donut and the introduction. So you are.
I'm Rebecca. I'm one of the 13 nurses in Brooklyn.
Okay, great. Rebecca?
Hi, I'm Gina, I'm a nurse liaison.
Thanks, Gina.
I'm Natalia, I'm a clinical manager.
Okay, thank you.
Joan, nurse for Queens.
Joe?
Adele.
What do we do?
Office staff.
Okay, good.
Nikki, staffing manager.
Okay, great.
Hi, I'm Lourdes Escobar, social work supervisor.
Okay, great.
Brooklyn nurse case manager.
Okay, thank you.
Maria, Medicaid service coordinator.
Okay, great. So we got a good mix of people in here this morning. Just how this program is going to proceed, probably about the next hour, 15 minutes. We'll do part 1, then we'll take a break, and then another hour, 15 minutes, part 2. So that's pretty much how we're going to go about it. As Susan did mention, they are videotaping this, so I'm going to be referring to some pages in your booklets. Not so much for you, you have them, but for someone who isn't here and is watching it on their DVD player. So we'll do it that way. We guarantee none of you will be in it, okay? We're just going to do it for me. I'm the only one who should be in it, and what's up here on the screen. So, with that in mind, let's get right into the program. So, what is customer service? You're going to be here all morning talking about it. What is it? Making a customer satisfied. What does that mean?
Happy with your service.
Okay, making a customer happy with your service. We know part of your role is to make sure that happens. Now, we know what customer service is, What's customer service excellence? Yeah.
Being polite, being informative,
Respectful,
Okay.
professional.
professional.
Good. Okay, so it's all of that. Why is it important?
Because if a customer gets poor customer service, it's very likely that they will not continue to work with the agency or refer anyone.
Yeah, perfect.
Turn, turn.
You know what happens? You go to Macy's down the block here, and you're waiting, and someone's giving you lousy customer service, and you have a sweater in your hand or something. What do you tend to do? You put it down, and you leave. Okay? As a matter of fact, when you leave and you go to work, what do you tend to do then?
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends, yeah. As a matter of fact, and this just froze, okay. As a matter of fact, some of the statistics that we know, 96% of unhappy customers don't complain to you. What did you do in Macy's with that sweater?
Put it back.
You put it back, and then what'd you do? You walked out. Did you tell the manager? No. You didn't complain. You just put it down and said, I'm out of here. That's what customers tend to do. So 96% of them don't complain, which means you don't even know about it. You can't even change it. 90% of unhappy customers won't choose your organization next time. They need something. And when they're dissatisfied, they tell 20 relatives and friends on the average. If you had a bad enough experience, you'll tell your coworkers here. When you get home, if you're living with someone, you'll tell that person. Your sister calls you on the phone, you'll tell her. Before you know it, it's a lot of people. When customers are satisfied, they only tell 5 relatives and friends. Big difference. So, you want to provide customer service, and we'll see this throughout the program, it's going to make you feel better. Now, who is your customer? Okay, and this is on page 8, or slide number 8. Who's your customer? Yeah.
Anyone you come in contact with.
Good. Anyone you come in contact with. That includes who?
Parents, clinicians, coworkers.
Yeah, right. The patients, the physicians, but even your coworkers with each other. Pretty hard to be smiling when you're dealing with your coworkers and they're aggravating you. Okay? I tell this story, and it's a true story. It was a long-term care facility here in New York. The nurses used to get paid by having their paychecks go to the nursing office, and they would have to go to the nursing office and pick up the paycheck. This is before online banking. What happened was one of the nurses did overtime. She went to get a paycheck. She saw her paycheck didn't have overtime. This was on the 4th floor, by the way. So now she has to go down to the 1st floor to the payroll office to see what happened. It was a coding error. In other words, it wasn't her fault. Somebody punched in the wrong number. She now had to go back up to the 4th floor to get permission and proof that she worked the overtime, had to bring it back down to the 1st floor to give it to the payroll office, and then she was told she'd get her overtime pay in the next paycheck 2 weeks later. Now, I don't care how many smile workshops that nurse went to, when she got back on that floor, she ain't smiling. So, we need to be nice with each other as well as with all those external customers. So, a question for you. I want you to think about a time when you had really poor customer service. Okay? I'm going to ask you to tell the story of what happened. So, it could have been at Macy's, it could have been with the telephone, it could have been with your cable company, it could have been moving, and the moving company. You needed a refrigerator delivered. So, I'll give you a minute to think about your stories. And all your stories are going to have 3 components that are the same. The first is a mistake occurred. Something happened, right? And when something happens, we get a little annoyed because something happened, but it really doesn't bother us that much. But then you have to take your time to get it fixed after you gave them your money. And when you go take your time to get it fixed, then you have to deal with their attitude. All these stories we heard the attitude. So the question is, you can turn it back on now.
Yeah.
Question is, how would you like to be treated?
Kind.
With respect, kind, okay, how else?
I mean, as you would expect to be treated how you feel like you treat other people. Like, I mean, if you put out good things, you expect to get it back. And
Okay.
if you're doing what you're supposed to do, you would think it'd be reciprocated.
If you pay
But
your
it's not.
money, you expect
Right,
good
well,
service.
that's-
But, you know, if you're paying your money, especially.
Good service, and you want things to be fixed, right? Whatever was the problem, you'd like them to fix it because you paid them your money. So, if that's how you would like to be treated, with respect, with kindness, things get fixed in the way that you treat other people, then that should be the way you treat people. Simple. Okay. Everyone talks about respect. We should show respect. What does that mean? Okay? What does that mean when you say, I want to be treated with respect?
You want to be heard.
You want to be heard. Okay. We're going to go through what the respect really means, okay? And it starts with people's needs. People have two needs. They have both physical needs and psychological needs. Now, all of you in the healthcare field, so you know this as well as I know this. Physical needs, we know it's air, water, food, light, touch. We all need this. However, we all have psychological needs as well. And by those we mean we all want to feel important, especially as a customer. We want to feel appreciated. We want to feel right, especially when something happens. And we want to be liked. And that's what it means to be respected. That's what it means to show respect. So let's look at each one. Making people feel important. How do you do that? You talk about people's interests. Those of you who are nurses and have to deal with patients directly and their families, especially, you want to talk to them about things so they feel like human beings. Encourage them to talk about themselves. If a person has an idea, make them feel that it's their idea. Being sympathetic to their ideas. We talk about talking less and listening more. The second part, we're going to go into a lot of detail on that. And being a good observer. Noticing things about people and saying something. Okay, so your coworker comes in and all of a sudden they have a different handle. Commenting on it. Gee, that looks nice. Okay, they're dressed particularly nice today. Commenting on it. Okay, we all like that. How do you do it at work? I just gave you some hints. Okay? Comment, talk to people, make them feel like they're important. All right, the next one is being appreciated. People like to feel appreciated. You know that's the number one complaint of employees in all the surveys that they do. Their supervisor doesn't appreciate the work that they do. And then we go survey supervisors and we ask them what their biggest complaint is. And they say, my director doesn't appreciate what I do. And then we ask the directors, and they tell us the vice president doesn't appreciate it. And then we go to vice presidents, and what do they tell us? President doesn't appreciate it. And then we go to the presidents, and what do you think they tell us? Board. Exactly right, all the way up. So this idea of feeling appreciated is very, very important. So how do you make someone feel appreciated? It starts with being positive. Now you've all dealt with some people who are negative, right?
No matter what you say.
Yeah, okay? And you can even see in their look, right? They've got that look. And when you're in their presence, you can almost feel the positive energy being sucked out of the air.
That's when you leave the room.
Okay, good. So we want to be positive. We want to give a very positive feel. Second way you make someone feel appreciated is give them credit. Credit's due. I deal a lot with employees and they say, you know, my supervisor really doesn't tell me when I do a good job. My next question to them is, your coworkers. Because maybe somebody had to deal with a really difficult patient, and they're telling you the story. It'd be great if you said to them, wow, you dealt really well with that person. I think you did a terrific job. I don't know if I could have done as well of a job with that type of patient or family or whatever. So, give them credit. Say something nice. Catch them doing something right. Oh, talking about doing it at work. We love to catch people doing something wrong. Okay? We're always catching people doing something wrong. As a matter of fact, I don't know that you have it here, but in some organizations, you might have someone that's in charge of facilities that cleans up, keeps the place nice, etc. And let's say after our meeting today, there's going to be an important meeting with the Manhattan Borough President and a couple of other key players in Manhattan, and the supervisor said to the employee, you know, you got to straighten out this room, make sure everything is all neat, get everything clean, etc. Half hour before that meeting's supposed to start, the supervisor comes and checks and takes a look at the room, and everything is neat, everything is perfect. The chairs are lined up one after the other with a space between them that you could measure with a ruler. That's how perfect it is. And everything is done except this computer was left here. When the supervisor comes in, what's the first thing the supervisor says? What about the computer? What about everything else? Okay. And we all tend to do it. Sometimes it's how we grew up. When I grew up and I was in school, I wasn't a terrific student. So every time I got a report card, I would get a bunch of 80s, some in the 70s, and always there was one in the 60s, 65, 68, whatever. Now I came home, and they used to give us the report cards then to bring home, and I had to show my parents. Now I knew if I showed my parents, I'd be in trouble. So I purposely waited, and I waited just before, to the next morning, just before my father had to go to work. And I had it timed beautifully. I would wait till he was just about to put his hand on the doorknob to leave. All of a sudden I'd say, oh, by the way, can you sign this? And I'd put the report card between him and the door. And he'd look at the report card, he'd see, you know, the 60s and the 70s, and he'd say, wait till I get home. And I knew that no matter how mad he'd be a lot less mad, because he'd have all day to be at work and it'd kind of sink in and he worked off, and I'd never get in that much trouble. This happened semester after semester after semester. I got very good at it. Well, as a matter of fact, then came the one semester I did great. As a matter of fact, I got 4 or 5 in the 90s. I even got 2 99s. I got an 87, and I got 1 76. Now I can't wait to show my father the report card. So I come home, I put it on his dinner plate. He can't eat until he sees that report card. He comes home, sits down, oh, what's this? Picks up the report card, looks at the report card. I'm waiting with bated breath for these words of praise. And what did he say?
76.
What's the 76? We had the same father, I think. What's the 76? Now, you know that after I finished eating, I couldn't wait to go upstairs and study to get that 76 higher. Not. Totally deflated you. But isn't that what we tend to do? We always pick the 76 instead of saying, look at all those 90s. Let's talk about the 90s. So, give credit where credit's due. Catch people doing something right. If they're learning, catch them doing something approximately right, because they're learning and they're trying. And always point out a job well done. All right, people like to feel right. avoid a confrontation. Try to see things from the other person's point of view. The worst thing in the world to do is to push back. As a matter of fact, in one of my classes, I have an exercise that I do in one of my graduate courses. It's a graduate course on negotiation and conflict resolution. And what I'll do is I'll take the biggest guy in the room. And I always have one guy that's big, right? Over 6 feet tall, you know, nice and wide, like that. I get him to stand up. And I go up to him, and I tell him, I'm going to push you. And I'm going to push you really hard. Really hard. Now, look at me. Short, small, this big guy. And he looks down at me and says, okay. He's not worried. And then I take the smallest woman in the room, and I tell her to stand behind the guy. And I say, it's up to her to catch him if he falls. Of course, she's all worried. How am I going to get this big guy? What am I going to do? And then I tell him, okay, I'm about to push you. And I go up to him, and let's say you're the guy, okay, standing up. And I go, okay, on the count of 3, I'm going to push you really hard. And I go, 1, 2, 3. And I actually come in on him like this. What does the guy do every time?
He tensed up.
Yeah. Not only did he tense up, he moves forward. His whole body just goes forward like this. Why? Because he's resisting. And if I would have really pushed him and said, I'm going to push you harder this next time, what they do is, instead of standing like this with the feet apart, waiting for me to push them, they go like this. Why? Pushing back. Well, the moral of the story is, the harder you push someone physically, the harder they push back. The harder you push someone verbally, the harder they push back. That's why we tell you, don't get into a confrontation, don't push. You're going to pull them toward you. And later in the program, we talk about how to do that. Talk about your own mistakes before criticizing others. If you're wrong, admit it right away. You know, when you went to that store and they were wrong, or you went to the DMV and they were wrong, and you kept on trying, and you knew that they knew they were wrong. You knew that they knew that you knew they were wrong. And you knew that they knew that you knew that they knew they were wrong. How does it make them look? Pretty silly, right? Okay? So, you want to be able to do it. If the other person is wrong, let them say face. Do it in a way that they say face, and you show some respect for them as well. Here's another way of putting it. Here lies the body of William J., who died maintaining his right of way. He was right, dead right, as he sped along, but he's just as dead as if he were wrong. Okay, if you have teenage drivers in the house, good saying for them. Yeah, sometimes you may be right. Still got into a crash and an accident. Didn't help. All right, we're going to give you a little exercise now. Okay, your coworker arrives at 8 o'clock. Instead of going downstairs, she brings her jacket and bag to the patient's room. Let's assume this is in like a hospital setting, a nursing home setting. Instead of walking downstairs, she brings her jacket and bag to the patient's room so as not to keep the patient waiting. After completing her work, she gathers her stuff, puts her jacket back on, walks downstairs to her office. With her jacket on, breakfast in hand at 8:30. As she walks into her office, she is met with the comment from a coworker, sleep late this morning? What would be a better way for the coworker to handle it? We're going to start now by putting you into some groups that we're going to work with the whole time.